Samstapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmasvarupini avatar varishtaya Ramakrishna te namaha. My humble pranams to revered Swami Vivekananda ji Maharaj, to revered Swami Pranananda ji Maharaj, to revered Swami Shuddhidananda ji Maharaj, and my pranams to all the revered Swamis seated here, and my namaskars and regards to Sri Ratneshwar Bhattacharya seated here on the dais, and my affectionate regards to all of you, my dear devotees and students who are assembled here. Today it is a very proud day for all of us as Ramakrishna Mission Ashrama Sarisha is celebrating its 100th year of exemplary service to the society in the field of education. And since last year, we have been celebrating the 125th anniversary of Ramakrishna Mission also. So these two events together, they make us feel immensely proud. If you look into the Ramakrishna Mission's activities spread over the last 125 years, we can see that the mission has been involved in three kinds of charity, three types of danas. It has been doing Annadanam, it has been doing Pranadanam, and it has been doing Vidyadanam. These are all prescribed in our Shastras. By feeding millions of poor, destitute people, for the last 125 years, the mission has been doing Annadanam. By running innumerable hospitals and clinics, it has been doing Pranadana. It has been saving the lives of countless numbers of people and bringing health to them. And in and through thousands of educational institutions, Ramakrishna Mission has been doing Vidyadanam. And by Vidya, I want to emphasize this point. This Vidya is very unique and quite different from the usual kind of knowledge which is disseminated in the society today. When I speak of Vidya here, it includes both the empirical or secular Vidya as well as spiritual Vidya. This is the uniqueness of Ramakrishna Mission's educational institutions. Now, before getting into the subject of role of Ramakrishna Mission in disseminating education for all, we would be able to evaluate Ramakrishna Mission's role in this area better if we peep into the historical background a little bit. What was the scenario of education in ancient India? If we ask this question, it is very interesting. We all know that in ancient India we had the Guru Griha Vasa system of education right from the Vedic times. This continued throughout its existence. Scholars say that in India there was two-tier education system that existed. right from the timeless past. Two-tier education system means there used to be a village level education system and there used to be an university level of education system right from the ancient times. In India, in all its villages, there used to be gurukulas and pathshalas. And it is said that in these gurukulas and pathshalas, the standard of education was quite high. As I stated before, in the ancient India, education was a perfect blend of empirical sciences and spiritual science. In this way, throughout the length and breadth of this great land called Bharatvarsh, we find that we had lakhs and lakhs of gurukulas existing and giving the basic level of education at the village level, where students used to go approach a spiritual teacher who would be teaching both the empirical sciences as well as spiritual science. After finishing their basic education, they had the freedom to go and pursue higher studies in the existing universities. It is very interesting that in India, in the first millennium, according to the scholars, it is said that there were more than 24 universities existing throughout the length and breadth of this Indian subcontinent. And when I'm saying the Indian subcontinent, it should be noted that it includes Afghanistan, present-day Afghanistan, on the western side, and on the eastern side it includes Myanmar. On the southern side it includes Sri Lanka and even Nepal. This was the geographical area which was referred to as Bharatvarsha, where education was of this kind. It existed in two levels, the village level and the university level. There were universities which were massive in its size. It is very interesting that the first university in this entire world was made in India, Takshashila. There were great universities like Takshashila, Vikramshila, Nalanda, Kantalur Shala in Kerala, Ujjaini, and many more. And for example, Nalanda in its peak, it is said that in its peak, at any point of time, in Nalanda University, more than 10,000 students used to pursue higher studies under the tutelage of more than 1,500 teachers. And there used to be more than 60 subjects taught to them. Many of those subjects have disappeared now. It is no more available. It's gone. Now, why I'm referring to this point, this historical background, this India was the educational hub of the world. Just like today, our children, they go abroad, they go to study in Harvard and Cambridge universities. India was the land of Vidya. It was the land of knowledge. People from all over the world used to come to here to receive and derive knowledge, derive Vidya. It was the educational hub of the entire world. Now, the first big blow to this education system came with the invasion of India by the Islamic invaders. Islamic invaders, when they invaded India, the first casualty of this invasion was the universities. They attacked these huge universities and they destroyed it one by one, one by one. We all know thousands and thousands of temples were destroyed by the Islamic invaders. And it is very interesting that these temples were also centers of education. They were referred to as temple universities. These temples were places where Vidya used to be disseminated to the common man. In this way, we find that these Islamic invaders, they completely destroyed thousands and thousands of temples. Many of the temples were temple universities, they were destroyed. Interestingly, even when these temple universities and universities were destroyed, the village level pathshalas and gurukulas, somehow they succeeded in surviving, and they continued to survive till the Britishers came. Now, with the advent of the Britishers in the 18th century, started the systematic and strategic destruction of this village level education system of India, which had existed for ages. With the introduction of the English education in 1835, we all know what Macaulay had in his mind. He wanted to create a class of Indians who would be Indians only in blood and color, but English in tastes, in morals, in intellects, and in their behavior. And we can say that to a great extent he succeeded in that. One of the main reasons why English education was started in this country was the Britishers wanted not only the physical colonization of India, but they also wanted the psychological colonization of India. And it's the misfortune of this great country that this psychological colonization continues even today in some form or the other. It's so deep-rooted. Now I'm presenting this scenario just to understand what Ramakrishna Mission has done in this situation. It's simply pioneering and simply inspiring, a role model, what mission has done. Now, as I said, with the Britishers coming in the 18th century, in a very systematic way, in a matter of 100 years, slowly these pathshalas and gurukulas which existed at the village level, they simply started disappearing. And by the time we became free in 1947, please note this, in 1947, this country, which was the hub of Vidya for the entire world throughout its existence, it became a land with a literacy rate of just 12%. It is so shocking. This is the overall picture that we get. This land of Vidya had become the land of avidya in 1947. Now, this is what precisely Vivekananda had observed during his days of peregrination throughout the length and breadth of this land. When he wandered all over this country, he could understand, he could feel the pulse of this land, and he understood one thing. The solution, the panacea to the problems that India is facing. What is the solution? He says, education, education, and education alone is the panacea for the problems that we are facing today. And what kind of an education? He wanted that ancient Gurukula system of education to once again come back. I will read one portion from Swami Vivekananda's beautiful lecture which he gave in Madras. This is one of the finest lectures. I would say this is the blueprint as far as building our new India is concerned, which every student, every citizen of this country should very carefully and very critically and very minutely read. Every sentence is important. The name of this lecture is The Future of India. In that, Vivekananda says beautiful ideas. I will just read out a small portion from this. Swamiji says, as I presented the whole picture, India, the land of Vidya, had become the land of avidya. Total ignorance and superstition was existing during Swami Vivekananda's time. Seeing this, Swamiji says, we must have a hold on the spiritual and secular education of the nation. Do you understand that? You must dream it. You must talk it. You must think it. You must work it out. Till then, there is no salvation for the race. The education that you are getting now has some good points, but it has a tremendous disadvantage, which is so great that the good things are all weighed down. In the first place, it is not a man-making education. It is merely an entirely negative education. A negative education or any training that is based on negation is worse than death. The child is taken to school, and the first thing that he learns is that his father is a fool. The second thing, that his grandfather is a lunatic. The third thing, that all his teachers are hypocrites. The fourth, that all the sacred books are lies. By the time he is 16, he is a mass of negation, lifeless and boneless. This is what precisely is the Western education on Western lines and by Western methods. How true is Swami Vivekananda's observation? What do we find in the present education system? All our great role models of this land, you take Bhagavan Ram or Bhagavan Krishna, all of them are stamped to be mythical figures. All our ancestors, they are all fools. All our sacred books, they are all superstitions. This is what we get in the present kind of education system, which Swami Vivekananda had noted, and that is what exactly he is hitting at here. That's why Vivekananda said that we have to have the entire education of this land on the national lines and on the national methods, and the education should be in our hand, not an imitation of the West. Then he says, the ideal, therefore, is that we must have the whole education of our country, spiritual and secular, in our own hands, and it must be on national lines, through national methods, as far as practical. Just imagine, our ancient Vidya in this country, which was truly speaking, to use Swami Vivekananda's own words, it was man-making education, it was life-building education, it was character-building education. With the introduction of the English education, what happened was, English education is nothing but, it is a man-killing education, it is a life-destroying education, it is a character-ruining education. Vivekananda once again wanted to bring back the ancient system, the Gurukula Vasa system of education, the temple-centered education system that existed in the ancient India. I'll just continue this one more paragraph. Swamiji says, we must have a temple. Now, this is Swamiji's plan, so beautiful. He says, we must have a temple, for with Hindus, religious must come first. Then you may say all the sects will quarrel about it, but we will make it a non-sectarian temple, having only Om as the symbol, the greatest symbol of any sect. And here should be taught the common grounds of different sects. And at the same time, the different sects should have perfect liberty to come and teach their doctrines. Secondly, in connection with this temple, there should be an institution to train teachers who must go about preaching religion, giving secular education to our people. They must carry both. As we have been already carrying religion from door to door, let us also carry secular education. That can be done. Then the work will extend through these band of teachers and preachers, and gradually we shall have similar temples in other places until we have covered the whole of India. Just look at the Swami Vivekananda's plan. He wanted once again that temple-centered education system of the ancient India to once again come back. Now, why I'm presenting this idea before all of you is that this is what precisely Ramakrishna Mission has been very seriously attempting to do it. It was a pioneering work in the beginning of the 20th century, I should say. Rather, if we just go back, the work had started in the last decade of 19th century itself. So, it is in this background that we can understand what Ramakrishna Mission has actually accomplished. When this idea was not there in the minds of any of the so-called reformers of that time, Vivekananda was the first person to think about bringing back the ancient Gurukula system into our own times. And for that, he had laid down this entire beautiful plan. Now, if we just look how Ramakrishna Mission has actualized this, this is completely a different story altogether. This was the background till now, whatever I spoke about. Now, what was the actualization of this all these ideas? The first wonderful thing we find, just look at this. Swami Akhandanandaji Maharaj, 1897. He starts a relief work in Murshidabad, and connected with that relief work, the first orphanage comes into existence. And what was he doing there? Picking up poor, destitute boys from the streets and then educating them. It is said that when he used to bathe these children, he would chant Sahasra Shirsha Purusha, Sahasraksha, Sahasrapad, Purusha Suktam. This is exactly what Swami Vivekananda wanted, where there will be educational institutions managed by Tyagis and Sannyasis. Guru Kula Vasa in charge of Sannyasis was the plan that Vivekananda had in his mind. So starting from this wonderful institution, which started in Sargachi, 1997, we can go about one by one. I'll just touch upon, we don't have much time. In fact, this is such a vast subject, we can deliberate upon it in several sessions. In fact, I feel each and every educational institution run by Ramakrishna Mission is an independent subject which can be discussed in different sessions. Each institution has got its inspiring stories. And it is very interesting when I think about it, what did these pioneers have with them? Just now we heard the story of Swami Ganeshanandaji, how he started the Sarisha ashram. What did he have with him? Did he have money? Did it have political parties or some state support? With no such external material support, all that these followers of Swami Vivekananda, they had only plain enthusiasm. They had that belief in national self-assertion, and they had Swami Vivekananda's teaching as inspiration. This is the only wealth they had in their hearts, and with this wealth, this courage, all these great pioneers, they have started different institutions all over the country. I'll just touch upon a few institutions as an example, and I'll wind up my talk because this is a very vast subject. So we have touched upon Sargachi Ashram, how it started by Swami Akhandanandaji Maharaj. A similar story we have, the Students' Home, Madras, where Shashi Maharaj was the main inspirer, and then we have his assistants like Ramu and Ramanuju. And what they have done there, it is something, is so inspiring a story. How students, now today Students' Home stands there like a model for the other institutions to emulate. Thousands and thousands of students have passed out of that institution, becoming real citizens of this country based upon the ancient wisdom of this land. Then we have, for instance, Trishur Ashram's Students' Home, the college school which is functioning there, which was started by Swami Tyageshananda. Tyageshanandaji and Narasimhanandaji. What was the kind of sacrifice that they underwent? They did. We all know that work was exclusively meant for the Harijans of that time. Harijans, and not only Harijans, lepers, people suffering from leprosy. Swami Narasimhanandaji used to treat them and also educate them. Then comes our educational institutions existing for the tribals. Each institution is a story in itself. Shillong, how it started. The great Swami Prabhanandaji Maharaj, Ketaki Maharaj, we know what he had done there. Along Agartala, Narayanpur, Swami Atmanandaji, how did it start? Our main subject is the role of Ramakrishna Mission in disseminating education to all. Just think about it, how these pioneers, they took this great ancient wisdom at the doorstep of these so-called marginalized section of Indian society. Tribals, Harijans, all these backward people. Then we have Ramakrishna Vidyashala in Mysore, started by Shambhavanandaji. Vivekananda College, Madras. Ramakrishna Mission Vidyalaya, Coimbatore. Avinashi Lingam. How it started? It is said that it started with just 3 boys. this biggest educational institution of Ramakrishna Mission, Coimbatore, it started with just 3 boys. And what is it today? Similarly, we have Sharda Peeth, which started in 1941 with Swami Vivekananda ji. Vidya Mandir at the center, and we know what Vidya Mandir stands for today. Rahara Boys Home, started by Swami Punyananda ji. Belgaria Students Home, Nirvedananda ji. Devgar Vidyapeeth, inspired by Swami Turiyananda ji and Sadbhavananda ji. Gyaneshwarananda ji Maharaj. Each institution has got its own story. Bangalore Students Home, inspired by Shashi Maharaj himself. Then about girls' education, how can we miss that? Sister Nivedita's Girls' School at Bagh Bazaar. Then Ramakrishna Mission Sharada Vidyalaya in Madras, started by 2 child widows, Sister Subbalakshmi and Vallambalammal. And then we have this Sarisha itself, which was really a very daring attempt made by Swami Ganeshananda ji in those times. Just now what we heard from Swami Pranananda ji, how interesting it is, how bold this brahmachari might have been, who could think about making the girls come out of their homes and play in open ground in a very modern way. Who could have thought of, and who could have dared to do these things in those days? It is unimaginable. Similarly, finally we come to, these are just few samples that I have touched upon. And finally we have our Vivekananda University today. A university again. Just see Vivekananda's plan. Vivekananda wanted Belur Math to become an university. Temple University of the ancient times. And one of the most striking features of all these educational institutions of Ramakrishna Mission is that it is centered in a temple. We have Sri Ramakrishna sitting in the center there. And the students coming to these institutions, they get the ambience of a Guru Griha, Gurukula, truly speaking. And we have been trying to do that. In fact, it is really very commendable that Ramakrishna Mission has been working inside a system which is strictly opposed to bringing this ancient system into practice. This has been the challenge of Ramakrishna Mission. The existing educational system is very much anti the ancient Gurukula system which existed in the past. So Mission has been very successfully doing these things in the midst of such great opposition, and it today stands like a role model for other institutions to emulate. In fact, seeing Ramakrishna Mission's educational institutions, so many other Gurukulas have come about in India today. And slowly today, even government is getting influenced by it. We know what is happening in the new education policy. They are slowly trying to bring back these ancient Vidya in our existing education system. So this is the kind of contribution that Ramakrishna Mission has done to India. India, which is the land of Vidya, once again, it has to be the greatest educational center of the world. It is going to happen. Vivekananda had foreseen. After all, what is the meaning of becoming a Vishwa Guru? This is the land from where Vidya has spread all over the world. And once again, this has to happen. And for this, Ramakrishna Mission institutions have done a pioneering work. Literally speaking, pioneering, inspiring. It stands like a beacon to all other institutions in this country and also for the lawmakers. So I hope that in very soon in future, we will be able to see that our mission would be doing much more. A greater role it will be playing in bringing back this ancient Gurukula system, temple-centered education to India, and it is going to be a success story. Thank you. Thank you. Namaskar.